American Express has some of the best credit cards when it comes to travel. But did you know they also have a very competitive high-yield savings account? Howdy, I'm Hutch, and today I'm going to be opening up an American Express high-yield savings account and explaining why this makes sense for me and possibly why it could make sense for you. Before starting, if you happen to be new to savings accounts in general, I want to just cover a couple of things. The main term that we're going to be looking at here is called APY. APY stands for annual percentage yield. And this is basically just saying the money that you can gain over the course of a year by having your money sit in a bank account. It's not doing anything else. It's literally just parked in a bank account. Because it's there, it's generating additional money just by being there. Primarily, I'm going to be using this account to hold my emergency fund. The key part here is that with emergency funds, think of them as long-term savings to cover any sort of emergencies that might come up in the future. I don't want to touch this money pretty much ever. It is meant to sit and do nothing until I absolutely need it. Next, let's talk a little bit about why it makes sense to put your money into one of these other online platforms instead of using a traditional bank. The reason why you want to generally use a high yield savings account versus one of the traditional banks is because the percentage yield that you can get for having your money in these institutions is just drastically different. For example, if we take a look at Bank of America or Chase, if you use one of their savings accounts, your annual percentage yield is only going to be 0.01%. That's very, very low in comparison to a lot of the online high yield savings accounts that you'll see, which are generally anywhere between 2 to 5% depending on where you're looking. Currently, I am using Capital One 360 as my high yield savings account, sitting at 4.35% APY. And at least at the time of this recording, American Express's high yield savings account is also offering a 4.35% APY. So if American Express is currently offering the same APY as Capital One, why would I switch? Because of this card right here, the American Express Platinum card. What's interesting about this card is that you can get targeted for an exclusive membership APY on the high yield savings account if you are a Platinum card member. I was targeted with an elevated APY of 4.6%. Just to demystify this a little bit, I'm gonna read through what my offer actually says. Exclusive offer for Platinum card members. Savings. Another advantage of being a Platinum card member. Our best rate on a high yield savings account. As a Platinum card member, you can unlock an exclusive savings rate, currently 4.6% APY, when you apply online and open your first American Express high yield savings account. Our best rate is available exclusively for our Platinum card members and will vary over time. And then the fine print just underneath it. The exclusive savings rate will vary over time and is subject to change at any time without notice. The exclusive savings rate will always be greater than the standard APY, but the percentage difference between the exclusive savings rate and the standard APY will vary over time. To be eligible for the exclusive savings rate, you cannot have an existing high yield savings account with American Express as of 11/01/23 and must remain a Platinum card member. It also calls out that as long as you hold the card and have this savings account open, you will have the elevated APY over, I guess, what the standard APY on the savings account is. Yes, as with all savings accounts, the APY that you can get is going to fluctuate just depending on what's going on in the world. You will always have the higher of those APYs. There's no monthly fees or minimum balance on this. There's no need to switch your banks. FDIC insured at least $250,000, so that's pretty standard. And then there's 24/7 account access by phone and web. I personally have never had a bad experience with American Express, and I love their customer service. I think they've been very responsive. Your mileage may vary, but I personally have had nothing but good things to say about them. Further goes on, you can earn more than the national average. It gives the example here. The rate in this offer is 4.6% APY. And then, it also notes, hey, the current national average is actually just 0.46% APY, which that's crazy when you also put it in the context of what's happening with the more quote unquote traditional banks. If the national average is 0.46 and theirs is still 0.01%, it's just, please put your savings account money in any other place than a traditional bank. And finally, it says, open an account in minutes, save more for the long term, and it gives you a QR code that you're supposed to scan with your phone, and then use that to open up the high yield savings account through your offer. Okay, let's do a run through of opening up the American Express high yield savings account. All right, so I'm gonna open up my phone. I'm gonna bring open the QR code reader, and it brings me to an open your savings account in minutes page. To open an account, you and anyone you add as a joint account holder must be 18 years or older, be a US citizen or resident, alien with a valid social security number or individual taxpayer identification number with a home address in the US. Use this account for personal use only. Are you a current American Express customer? Yes, I am a current card member. This is true. What's my login? I'm not gonna show this stuff, so we'll skip ahead. And you get the start of the application. Let's get started. Pre-populated information from your Amex card. All of this information is still correct. And I would like electronic statements only. It's gonna ask for my employment status and annual income. They just always ask this on applications. I'm employed. They never have producer or anything, do they? Do they have like entertainment or something? Video games? No, they don't have video games, of course not. Artist or entertainer? Not really. Casino gaming, I mean, not the type of gaming they're thinking of. Management professional? Maybe that's the closest thing here. Technology? Yeah, let's go with that. Video game is technology. So after putting in the occupation, you go ahead and put in your annual estimated income, tax withholding, required by the IRS to confirm customers' tax status for interest earning accounts. Have you been notified by the IRS that you're subject to backup withholding? No. Is this a joint account? No, this will just be for me. Terms and conditions. High yield savings account, standard APY, as you can see, is 4.35%. Interest rate is 4.25829%. But here's the line that I think is really important. Eligible platinum card members may qualify for an exclusive APY of 4.6%. And at the bottom here, the annual percentage yield APY as advertised is accurate as of 1/15/2024. This is the date of me actually applying for it. Interest rate and APY are subject to change at any time without notice before and after a high yield savings account is opened. Please see the deposit account agreement for additional terms and conditions and truth in savings disclosures. So that's it. Gonna go ahead and hit submit. Just like that, we've created a high yield savings account with American Express. So that's pretty much it. That's all there is to it. So to put some numbers behind this so you guys can see a visual of what I'm talking about, I'm gonna use my emergency fund. I like to keep at least 1 year's worth of funds in an account. For me, that's $30,000. So we're going to take my emergency fund and put it against the traditional bank's savings account APY, what I'm currently using, which is Capital One's savings account APY, and then American Express's high yield savings account APY. So you can see using my emergency fund at the traditional bank's APY of just 0.01%, I am earning a total of about $3 at the end of the year for my money. Okay, let's see how that compares to the online savings accounts. If you take that same emergency fund and you put it at Capital One at their 4.35% APY, it gets me $1,305 earned at the end of the year. Again, just for sitting there, $3 versus $1,305. Kind of seems like a no-brainer to me. But now let's compare that against the American Express high yield savings account with the elevated offer that I got at 4.6%. Take that same emergency fund, multiply it by the 4.6% offer from American Express. That gets me a total of $1,380 at the end of the year. Now, you might be thinking to yourself, hey, is that really worth it? When you compare the Amex high yield savings account versus Capital One, you're talking about a difference of $75. And that's what I kind of want to put into perspective here. People can get lost in percentages that you see as they get bigger and bigger, but depending on the amount of money that you're actually using in these accounts, it's typically not going to be like a gigantic difference unless you're talking about having a lot of money in these accounts. This kind of brings me to why I think this makes sense for me, and that's consolidation. I currently use a ton of different platforms to track and just go through my own personal finances. And this year in particular, I really want to trim that down to be a more manageable size of things that I have to look at on, a semi-regular basis. I actually use American Express cards as my kind of daily drivers for any sort of purchases that I have. So I already, regularly look at the American Express app It's just nice to have one screen, one login, as much as I possibly can. In making this switch, I would actually be completely removing my need for checking in on Capital One, for example. So those are the reasons why I am going to be switching to the American Express High Yield Savings Account. But what are some considerations as to why you might not want to do this? Well, for starters, some people just like having that extra layer of resistance to being able to access their emergency fund in their savings account. The idea being that there's an extra barrier for me taking from that account. This is actually what I'm currently doing with my Capital One savings account. It's kind of like just out of sight, out of mind. Another key reason why you might not want to do this is because there are better offers out there. Yeah, American Express gives you a 4.35% APY as a base level currently, but another high yield savings account that gets spread across on the internet a lot is SoFi. They're currently offering 4.6% APY, and they also give you an included $300 bonus if you sign up as a new member to their high yield savings account. The caveat here is in order to get that bonus, you have to have signed up with direct deposit on that account, and you have to have deposited $5,000 or more within that account within their bonus period, which is 25 days. If you don't mind setting up direct deposit and making sure that you have that amount of money within their 25-day period, then by all means, SoFi might be the better option for you. It's just not that big of a difference to me. I'd much rather have less things to look at than open another new account. So while that is a tempting offer, I'd like to simplify as much as possible. And then finally, you might not have a targeted offer. Hell, you might not have a platinum card. If you don't have a platinum card, please do not go open a platinum card just to get this offer. That's not worth it. If you happen to already have the card, this makes a little bit more sense if you get targeted. But I don't think you should be opening up new credit cards just to get a 0.3% bump on your high yield savings account. I can tell you with confidence that had I not gotten this targeted offer, I would just be sticking with Capital One. So to wrap up, I just want to be perfectly clear. Please don't go out and get a platinum card just to get the high yield savings account. That's not worth it. But if you're already a platinum card member and you get a targeted offer and you use American Express all the time anyway, this might just make sense. That's it for me. Hope this video is useful, and hey, thanks for hanging out.